Hello everyone! I cannot believe I'm actually doing this video because this was the technique I hated most out of everything. What is show and tell and why do newbies hate it? When you start writing, you are solely focused on the plot, right? The characters, the character development, the plot development. Like you are mostly worried about how you're gonna carry the whole story and if you're gonna manage to write the needed amount of words or hope that you don't go overboard. So you're not really focused on the writing technique in the beginning. The only way you can actually improve with writing, and this is proven, is if you write a lot. The more you write and go back to reread it, the more you get a sense of where your mistakes lie. And you can only do this if you write different stories. Like you cannot write one thing and then go back and you reread it over and over and over again and hope to see something new. So it's probably best if you write a lot, and maybe if you use wattpad, then you can see what works with the readers, what doesn't, and that's how you can kind of get a sense of your writing voice. And yeah, just in general, once you start writing, you want to get better at it and you want to start learning new techniques. Now, so one of the first things we learn in school when we have literature is that all of the writers use descriptive words, right? We use descriptions, so you're kind of used to writing, the flower was in this color and that color, and it had blush colored petals, and the sky was blue. So we kind of use a lot of adjectives, right? We use a lot of adjectives to describe the scene, right? The object, the person. And because we're so used to doing this, the writers that tend to develop later on realize, oh wait, I have to write descriptively in order for my writing to be good. Now this is the most standard version in the way of writing. I've noticed a lot of young writers on Wattpad, they use this technique to write most of the stuff. So it wasn't until a few years ago that I got like a really harsh critic from an ex-friend. He was also a writer. He was a bit older than me, and he had a different style of writing, like a way different style of writing, and we wrote totally separate types of works. But we decided to switch each other's works one day, and I still did not have, I still wasn't that good at it. Like I was good at plotting, but I wasn't good at the writing stuff. Like I could put a lot of words on a page, but I couldn't really make it sound and make it as neat as possible. And because this guy had done so much research for writing, like he went over the technical aspects. When he actually went and dissected my whole story, my whole book, I felt very hurt and I felt very angry, and I was like, what the hell does this guy mean? Like, I thought this book was good, but he was mostly focused on the way I was telling the stuff. Like I was telling a story, but I wasn't really creating an image. And I think he was trying to convey that I needed to work on the writing technique. Now, I personally believed that I don't really have, like, if I have the talent, what's the point of like learning stuff about it? Like how I'm gonna, like, am I just wasting time? Am I like, my storytelling is not enough? But in actuality, you're just getting better at it. And the more you go over to some techniques and you see what works for you, what doesn't, and what you need to focus on and what you can avoid, it's really good to have in mind that different techniques work different for separate writers, but you still have to learn about the craft. And when you're starting out, the first thing you have to do is write a lot, and then the second thing you have to do is learn a writing technique. Here is where show and tell comes. So what does show and don't tell mean? Show don't tell is a writing technique that allows the reader to experience expository details of the story through actions, sensory details, words, or the expression of characters' emotions, as opposed to through the author's own description of events. Pretty sure that this is not clearing anything up for you. So I started reading about it, and at first I thought that show don't tell meant describing a lot of words. It's just like using a lot of descriptive words or using a lot of words in general to capture a person's facial expression or how they're dressed, or adding more details would actually show more instead of telling. And it took me so long. Like I went back and forth. I wrote a lot of stuff and I went back and was like, this still doesn't seem right to me. Like I still am confused. Like what is this show don't tell? Like where I just couldn't understand. Like I watched so many videos, I read so many articles. I was just so confused about the specifics of show don't tell. And eventually I figured out that you don't have to write more words in order to show. The whole point is using the right word at the right time in the sentence. So I'll read you a few examples and I'll explain along the way. Okay, so I have the most typical one here, which is the telling part. The telling sentence is, Brian was angry. He started to yell. So let's say you're writing a dialogue and you want to write that this guy got angry, and then what you would do is like, stop shouting at me, Brian yelled, or something like that. In this case, Brian was angry. He started to yell. Now the show point here, the way you can show the scene is by writing it like this. Brian clenched his fists into tight balls. So you can kind of imagine that this is what he does. Try as he might, he could not contain himself. Within seconds, he erupted like a volcano. So we all know how a volcano looks like, right? We know how it starts shaking and it goes like, and then eventually it explodes and everything just pours out of the volcano, right? So you already have an image compared to how angry he got, how his anger looks like. So it's not like going from a normal face to like, wah! But you can actually know that he trembles and then it goes up and up and then he eventually explodes and yells out. So this is what showing is. Let me read you another example. I love this one. This is a really good one, a really good example. So the telling sentence here is, Mr. Smith was a fat, grouchy old man. So let's say you're describing a new character. You could write Mr. Smith was a fat, grouchy old man, or, so the same sentence now in show. Mr. Smith heaved his heavy frame out of the armchair and while trying to reach for his cane grumbled, Susan, get yourself over here now. So here we have Mr. Smith heaved. Now heaved, this is why they say writers need a good vocabulary, because the word heaved, it means something heavy, like getting up heavy, getting up with like with difficulty. So you can kind of tell that he is moving with difficulty out of his heavy frame. So we know that he's fat, right? Heavy frame, it usually points to something huge or, you know, out of the armchair. And while trying to reach for his cane, we already know, like, if he's using a cane, he probably has a disability, or he is, you know, an old man. So, you know, it kind of like the cane, it points to that is somebody older, maybe has difficulty walking. Grumble, if you use a word like grumble, which it instantly shows you that somebody is doing a displeased face. You get the image in your head. And then we have the phrase that comes afterwards. So you can already see the difference. When you tell, you go straight to the details. You go straight, he was angry, you point stuff out very directly. But if you want to paint a picture, you don't necessarily have to write a good like description, like a long description. You just have to use the right words. So instead of using a word like walked, you can look up every synonym there is about walking. And I'm pretty sure you have this, like even if you're from another country and you're writing in English, I'm pretty sure you have this in your own country when you use different words for somebody that walks in different ways. You have people who skip while walking, right? So you can kind of tell if somebody's skipping while walking, they have maybe more cheerful personality or bubbly personality. If somebody's slouching and walks like this, you get the feeling that they are maybe lazy, or they have just woken up, or they're just not in a mood. If you have somebody walking in a straight line or walking like stiff, it can say that maybe somebody is a more strict person, or they're very disciplined, or they have a good posture. If you use a specific word like ambled towards this is my favorite word to use. This is my favorite word to use when I want to say just that somebody walked from point A to point B. I sometimes use the word ambled because it means like walking with leisure. You know, that he walks in a slow pace. So when you're normally walking, you usually use a small pace. So I like to go back and forth between walked and ambled. Here is where you can actually even tell. You can use that. You don't have to completely eradicate it. I think a lot of writers are wrong when they think you just have to show in the text. Like, I feel like it's very important to also have, you know, go straight to the point, just telling in some situation, like he moved his hand. That's kind of like a tell. So I think it's good to have a good balance of both, but it's really important to really understand the show technique. If you want more advice, please let me know down in the comments. If you guys like this video, please give it a like, subscribe, and yeah, see you in the next one. Bye.